So welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Podcast. You listen to the Speak Up Podcast, and I'm your host, Ashley. And in today's episode, we'll be speaking to Alan, who has some experience working within the UK Benefits system. I'm going to be asking him some questions about his experiences to explore the relationship between public mental health and the benefit system. I've got Alan here with me now in the studio. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm very well, Ashley. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on and inviting me and giving me the opportunity to sort of tell my side of it. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. So we'll jump straight into the questions, really. So just to start with, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you decided to come on the podcast?
Yeah, certainly. So first and foremost, I'm 37 years of age. Firstly, my name's Alan McClemont. I've done many types of jobs. Hard labour jobs mainly. I didn't really get into customer service until about 2.5 years ago, and realised that actually it was something that I was quite good at because I knew how to speak to people, and that was it. It just kind of went from there, and I found out that I could do some good with people, and when I was talking to them, they were very receptive. So that was why I decided to go on to the DWP. The reason that I wanted to come on this podcast, Ashley, was because obviously it's about mental health. Now, mental health was one of the reasons that I'd actually came forward, because I'd seen that the detriment it was having on people's mental health being part of this benefit system. So when you asked me to come on and talk about that, I was more than happy to do so, because I've seen how destructive it can be. It would be bad enough if the processes were just on their own, but when you add sabotage to that, or people not doing their job correctly, it heightens it and enhances it by at least 3 or 4 times easily. And they're not all like that, Ashley. I have to establish that. I don't think I've said that enough, that they're not all like that. They're just few and far between, case managers and work coaches that are good. It's just there's a lot of people. It's like there is a lot of sabotage going on. And I mean, sabotage is probably the wrong word. There's a lackadaisical attitude to everything now, Ashley, and I'm not just talking about in the DWP. I'm a customer, I'm a consumer, like a lot of people, and I find that the customer service that we get from people now is not what it was 10 years ago. It doesn't seem to be valued anymore. It's like people don't seem to put the same effort in as they once did. When I first started working, Ashley, if you made a mistake, you were held accountable for that mistake, and you were absolutely told not to do it again. Nowadays, or for what I've experienced over the last couple of years, people aren't always held accountable for the mistakes they made, or they make rather. And that was one of the reasons coming forward was to give people a voice that were finding themselves on the wrong end of that.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. It's sabotage within the benefit system is completely wrong, and you'll know far more, being with an internal from an internal perspective. You'll know what that does to people.
Firsthand, Ashley. Firsthand. I know firsthand what it does to people, because they tell you, and I've said this many times, that the people you're dealing with, they tell you everything. And they give you everything about their lives, Ashley. It's just, and you're like kind of like a doctor, you're like a priest, all rolled into one, psychologist, because it's so bad. Just excuse me a second, Ashley.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Ash. Yes, I see it firsthand. Yep.
Yeah. And in your opinion, how is the system sort of having an impact on public mental health? What are the ways in which it's really impacting people specifically?
I would say it's killing people. In fact, I know it is. And it's set up that way to generate maximum stress and fear. I've said it in one of the first videos, Ash. I've had people calling up the line absolutely terrified. And I mean terrified. Just because, and I'll give you a quick story, his brother had very kindly given them some money to go for a weekend away, and the lady had called me up, and she was going through a difficult time, and she was absolutely distressed and panicked at the fact that her brother had given her, it wasn't even much, it was just enough to go away for the weekend, because she thought she had to report it as income. Because she said, if I didn't make this call today, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy my holiday, and I would have thought I was breaking the rules. And I'd said to her, I said, look, do you know what you're going to do? You're going to hang this phone up. You're not going to give this another thought. I'll put everything that I need to on your system. I want you to go and pack your suitcase, and I want you to go and have a very good time because you deserve it. And she was very grateful for that, because a lot of people wouldn't have said that. And I did, because she deserved a holiday. You could tell, I could see what she'd been through. But it just shows you, though, Ash, how it gets people under control by manipulating them and getting them into this stressful and fearful position. That causes claimants to make those type of calls because they're so afraid. And that's what happens when you're in an abusive relationship, Ashley. If someone's in an abusive relationship, that tends to be the way of it. They're very, very scared, and this is no different.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's the fear factor, isn't it? That's what's driving it. The machine is the fear factor.
Yeah, it's the currency of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, we talked just a little bit briefly about the public mental health. What about your mental health? How did the work you were doing affect your mental health?
Well, I'd said many times, Ash, like in meetings when I was still doing the job, and I know everyone's got their coping mechanisms, but I had said that if you're not sort of doing some type of cardio at least a couple of times a week, 2 or 3 times a week, then I dread to think what your mental health would be like. Now, I know everyone, like I say, has got their own coping mechanisms, but it was very, very sore on your mental health, especially when I'd gotten that disciplinary at the time, and you'd realised that, well, hold on a second here. Now, I thought I was going to get praised for that, for filling out a homeless application form for a kid who couldn't do it himself, and I felt really good about it, and they disciplined me for that, for breaching data protection, simply because I put my manager's email address into them. So that was very disheartening, because when you do that and you feel good about yourself and you've helped someone and you think you're going to get praised for it, but instead you actually get disciplined, final written warning, that is very, very disheartening. But it was sore on the mental health as well, because it was at that point that I'd said to them, well, I'm not sure I'm what you're looking for here. I've misunderstood what this position is. It's robots you need, unquestioning robots. But to be fair, they convinced me to stay, the 2 lads that I'd done the witting with, which were very decent. They just like, we want you to stay, we don't want you to leave. And they'd convinced me, and I'd stayed, and because I wanted to do it, Ash. And I knew what I said to myself, it is what it is. The best thing I can do is go against the grain as often as I can, help as many people as I can, and give them the reasoning for why this is happening, or try to. And I thought, if I can do that pretty well, at least then I can sort of be a stalwart in combating bad mental health. Because, and I did it, I've done it many times, where people would say, oh, Alan, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't get through to you. Thank you very much, you've helped me here. And there was one lady in particular, I can't go into details of the nature of the call because it's so unique, they would be able to identify themselves. But she'd been through a horrific ordeal, and I mean really, really horrific, the sort of stuff that I'd researched. She hadn't slept in 3 months. She said she hadn't slept properly in 3 months. And I had sat and gave her the time. I sat for about an hour with her. Because some days I just used to say, right, the timer for the call's out the window. This person needs me. They need help. And I sat for an hour, and I'd spoken to her, and just everything that I'd learned, I told her what I'd been through and how you can sort of combat that, and staying positive that can help your reality around you. Just all that stuff. And at the end of the call, Ashley, she'd said to me, she said, Alan, I would just like to thank you, because now that I've had this conversation with you, I will now sleep tonight. And when somebody says that to you, not only does it sort of overwhelm you and start to think, well, wait a minute here, someone's just said that to me, and I've been believing my whole life that I'm nobody and I can't help anyone, and yet someone who has been through this horrific ordeal has just now said to me that because of what I've said to them, they're going to sleep tonight. And it was at that point I realised, Ashley, I thought, well, maybe I could be onto something here. I might be able to take this a little bit further. And it wasn't long after that I started to make the decision that it's time for me to sort of come forward, and it's just waiting for the right time to do that and handing in notices, etc., etc. But that was just one example. I've got loads of them, like where people have said similar things, where they've thanked you for being on their side and speaking to them as a human being rather as opposed to being a robot. So that was a big part of why I kept doing it. People used to say to me in my life, how can you do that? How can you put up with that every day? And I said, well, that's why. When people say that to you. And there was another one where a lady had contacted, she went out her way to contact her case manager to say, look, and to give me a glowing review saying that he was very kind and compassionate. I needed that kindness because I've been through hell. And the case manager had sent me the email to then pass it on to my manager. And I thought that was another one where I thought, well, I'm going to get a lot of praise for this. Nothing. I didn't get anything for it because of the micromanaging techniques. So that was quite disheartening, and that can be detrimental to mental health as well. It's quite eye-opening, Ash, when you go in and you think, I'm going to be a civil servant here to help people, and then they're basically telling you to do the opposite of that. Not only are they telling you to do the opposite to that, but they've written it into their policy and process. So it's disheartening again.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you mentioned as well in previous interviews you've done about payments and things not being on time and stuff like that. I mean, that must have an impact on you at least, and obviously the claimant as well, but you as well, because you're rushing to get payments through and follow process and make sure that, you know, it gets processed for them on time. And you obviously it's on your conscience, isn't it, as a compassionate person?
You're complicit in it, Ash. Yes, and I said this to myself at the end, and this is me. I'm not saying anything against anyone that still continues to do the job, because we still need decent people in there. We can't have all bad people in there. We need some decent people in there. But I'd made the decision that I knew that it was after I'd seen what I'd seen with regards to the payment disputes, and I thought, no, hold on a minute here. And I was telling myself, I'm helping people. I wasn't perfect. You had your fallouts with people as well because you get angry callers. But it was just like, I'm actually complicit in this. It doesn't matter how many people I'm helping. I'm still complicit in it because I'm helping them through it. I'm helping them do it because you do have to withhold information. You can't tell them everything, Ashley. I mean, if someone has got a payment dispute and then you then say, well, it's actually going to be 8 weeks before you get that. Even if I'm not allowed to tell them, but even if I did, it just makes the call difficult on you. And I'm not saying it shouldn't, because it would annoy me, it would annoy anyone. That's why I came forward, because it's wrong. But yeah, I mean, you are complicit in the end. However, if you've got compassion and you want to do the right thing, then yes, you can get through it and you will get a lot of good feedback. But it's the people that have not got compassion that are complicit in it. It's them that need to sort of go in a corner and maybe have a little think to themselves about what kind of world they want to live in, because they are helping this agenda. There's no doubt about that. And I said at the start that this benefit system is the perfect setup for a George Orwell's 1984 or that type of dystopian society. That is what they would need for it, the universal credit. So they obviously know what they need to have the world that they want, like, and that's certainly going to be an integral part of it.
Yeah, and they're wanting to create a universal basic income now, aren't they, or something like that?
Well, yes, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, universal credit, they're already halfway there with it, Ashley. Universal credit, they just need to change the name, which I'm sure they will do when they think they can get away with it. And I'd said for years, Ash, that they want everyone to do this, and they want everyone, because I've researched it, and they want everyone on a universal basic income. And a lot of people said to me at the time, well, how are they going to do that? And you know something, I thought, that's a really good question. How are they going to do that? I now know the answer to it. What they've done is all these old style benefit systems that used to pay house and benefit no longer do. So the only benefit that's going to pay house and benefit, should you need to claim it, will be through universal credit. So you could say, well, I'm not signing up to that universal basic income, and as long as you don't need to pay rent, that's fine. But if you need to pay rent, you're not going to get your house and benefit. So obviously, there's not going to be any arguments there, Ashley. I have to sign up to this because I need my rent paid. So that it's very, very easy for them to do these things. They just need to say, right, we'll press a button here, here, and here. Those payments no longer go through that. They now need to go through this, and that's the end of it. And everyone signs up to it, and everyone has signed up to it. Now, people have got to me in the comments saying, I think you're talking rubbish. I've not signed up to it yet. I've not been asked to. It's like, well, it's just a matter of time, because they don't want to face the fact that this could be true. But pretending it's not true, Ashley, doesn't make it not true. It just means that if we're not facing it or looking at the events of the day, it just means that the chances of it coming to fruition are ever more greater, because we're the people that need to hold it up for them. And I get so frustrated sometimes with people when they say to me, well, what can I do about it? Well, there's a lot you can do about it, because they need you to build this, so you can stop complying. And that doesn't mean to say that you engage in anarchy and all that kind. I don't mean that. I just mean that we need to educate our minds about ourselves and the world and the people that run it. And once we do that, the answers will come out of it, Ashley, as it has in my life.
Yeah, definitely. What's it like to be a whistleblower?
Well, as I said, it was something that I didn't have a dream of doing it. I wasn't sitting, I'd love to be a whistleblower like I am when I've got a guitar in my hand. I'd love to do this for a living. It wasn't like that. It's just, I used to think it was a very noble thing for people to do, to come forward and tell the truth about these things. And I didn't actually even think of myself when I was thinking about going public. I wasn't thinking, I'm going to become a whistleblower. That terminology had never entered into my consciousness, not once. It wasn't until someone had said in the comments after the first video, it's good that there's somebody's whistleblowing on the DWP. So it has been difficult, don't get me wrong, because you get a lot of people out there that are jealous of you. You get a lot of haters. You get a lot of nasty comments and derogatory comments about you and your life, about your past, and why should we believe you? You're a former junkie, you're all that stuff, and you've not got any education, you've not got any qualifications or anything like that. And it can be quite, it's easy to sit and say, well, I can ignore that, but it's quite hard to accept, because you're thinking, well, I'm trying to do the right thing here. I'm just trying to do the right thing so that maybe one of your family members don't need to deal with this stuff. But there's just some very, very, very nasty people out there, Ashley, and I'm not an angel. I've had my problems in the past, and I was less compassionate than I am now at once, and we all make mistakes, we do. We need to forgive ourselves for that and move on. But what we need to do is we need to try and come together. And I had someone the other day there saying to me that this manager that I was at odds with, there's no point keep talking about it, Alan. You'll need to just post his name. And it's like, no, I'm not. I says, what is the point in me posting that guy's name? I says, we can't bring him up in any charges, so what's the point? The only thing it'll do is open him up to ridicule and misery, and he'll get a lot of hassle on his socials. I don't want to be the cause of that. I might not like the guy. I might not like what he done, but I don't want to be the cause of his misery, because we've got enough misery in the world, you know what I mean? So someone has to stop the cycle. So yes, he's done me wrong, but me going out and giving his name out to people that want to go and troll him, it doesn't help me. It's not going to help the people that's doing it, and it's certainly not going to help him or the world. So why do it? Break the cycle. He was micromanaging in a job. He thought it was the right thing to do. It wasn't. And what he did was wrong. It was. But I'm over it now. He's forgiven. I've moved on. He was within his job. And I said this on Saturday. The thing that annoyed me about him the most was that when he wasn't micromanaging, Ashley, when we were sitting having meetings and talking one-on-one, he was a really nice fella. It really was. And that's what used to annoy me, because I thought, well, why do you need to be like that? You're obviously decent. You obviously know what decency is. But yeah, you're choosing not to use it. And this is what bothers me about some of these psychopaths that we've got, is they're very, very nice and charming when they want to get what they want, but then the minute they don't get what they want, it just blows. And that makes it worse, because you know what decency is, you know what that is. And they need to take responsibility for the mental health problems that they're causing people. We need to take responsibility. I keep using this word. You have to be responsible for your own mental health. Yes, I'm not saying there isn't factors that when people sort of do you wrong, or I know it hurt and I know what they did was wrong, but holding on to that and saying, I hate what they've done and I hate them, you're not hurting them, you're just hurting yourself. Yeah. So there's a power to letting go. And when you can do that, I know it's pride. I've got a lot of pride, and I find it very, very difficult to do this. But when you can let that go and say, well, that's done, I can't change that, and I can't change them, I can only change myself. That's taking responsibility, and it will better your mental health. There's no doubt about it. Along with, since it's a mental health podcast, I mean, I was depressed a lot. I was really low for years and years and years. That's why I ended up on drugs. But there was only really two medicines that sorted it out, and that was exercise and food, good food, Ashley. And because happiness is a state of mind. Now, people will say to me, but this happened and that happened and this person done that to me and that person done this. Right, okay, I'm not saying it shouldn't have hurt you, but like I just said, what, you're going to sit in the house for the rest of your days and sit and think about what they did was wrong, or how much it hurt you, or how much you skinned your knees on the way down and couldn't get back up. That does no good. You're stopping the clock there for your progress, and until you restart it and move on, you'll never go anywhere. And you restart that clock by letting go, because there is a power behind it. That much I know for a fact.
That's really good. I like that. I like how you put that. Yeah, that letting go definitely is probably going to be the pivotal part of this episode. Is letting go of your demons and
exercise your triggers. It's the only way, and I still get triggered. I get trolled every day, and it's tempting. It really is tempting to reply to them, but they're only doing it to get a rise out of you. This is why they're set up, these troll accounts. It's to get a rise out of you and to undermine you, so that your blood pressure goes up. And I mean, it's obvious why they're doing it, because if you get your blood pressure up enough and you start kind of lashing out, then it will undermine you, and they'll just say, look, see, you've shown your true colours. Now, anyone trolled enough and pushed enough and prodded and poked enough is going to, everyone's got their breaking point, haven't they? So that's why you need to manage these triggers, and see, the more you manage them, the easier it gets. And it actually becomes quite funny in the end, so it does, when you see these things, and I just laugh at them now, because I've managed the triggers and I've exercised the demons so much, Ashley, it does just become laughable. And then you look back to times where you have had disagreements with people and you think, I wish I was thinking like that then, because there was no need for that. There was no need for that at all. And again, that all comes from, and it's a responsibility thing, it really, really is. And that's what growing up people do. And we need to grow up as a society, because we are spiritual children, and until we do that and realise the spiritual nature of us, this world will continue to suffer. But thankfully, people are waking up to that now, and change it's beckoning light. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely, and it's, as long as we all make that conscious effort to go in the right direction, we should be fine.
Yeah.
I'll take responsibility, like you say, for our own individual part in it,
Of course. We're never all going to go on, Ashley. You're never going to be 100% right. You're never going to agree with someone 100%. You're never going to, it's just not going to happen. But what we need to do is we need to respect it. If someone wants to walk, and I said this in a video, if somebody wants to walk down the street dressed as the opposite sex, that is entirely their business. It's certainly none of ours. But if you don't like it, fine. But you have to respect it. Because they might not like what you're wearing, but they're not saying anything to you, so they're showing you that respect. So whether you agree with their politics or not, you have to show that respect to them. And that's what we all need to do, and that's what adults do. Spiritual children lash out, and I dealt with it every day. That's why I listen to Jordan Peterson a lot, because he's a psychologist, and it helped me manage narcissistic personalities and egos. And I used to deal with it every day, people with a sense of entitlement that just didn't want to do anything to better themselves or the world. And it's just like, I used to say to them, you're selling yourself so short. You're a genius that's waiting to happen. What that genius is, I'm not sure, but that's your job to find that out. And you'll only do that by getting to know yourself. You can't get to know yourself if you've got all these demons that need exercised. So, and I know people are going through nightmares, Ashley, I know that. I've been through nightmares myself, and what you need to do when you're in that situation is find the blessing in your nightmare, because there's always one. There's always something there that, yes, this is all bad and this is all terrible, but that there, I could possibly use that. And heroin addiction was my nightmare, and the one thing I got out of that was I could never sit on my own, and I always need to be with people, and that's not fair, because people need their time on their own, as I do now. But at the time, I couldn't do that, but heroin somehow, it made me seclude into myself and stay in that, and I thought, well, yes, this is bad, but I don't want to be around them, but I can now be on my own. And then I thought, well, if I start reading when I'm on my own, I could maybe make something of this. Now, I am in no way advocating that someone go out and use heroin to get to know themselves, Ashley. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when I was within my nightmare, that was the blessing within my nightmare. That's what I took from it. That's what I got from it. I managed to be on my own when I never could. And from that came the reading of the books. And from the reading of the books came the fasting. From the fasting then came the playing of the guitar and learning new languages. And then it becomes a snowball. It becomes an avalanche. But it starts with finding the blessing within your nightmare, whatever that nightmare is. And I mean, I don't know your nightmare, so I can't identify the blessing, but I think it's something that you and you alone need to identify. I don't think anyone else can do it for you.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, and you touched on your addiction that you had.
Mm-hmm.
What got you through that? You mentioned good food and exercise. But what really was it literally finding your blessing in your nightmare that got you through that?
Pretty much, yeah. It's really hard to say. There's one. I said it in a video. There was one guy, and he gets ridiculed, and he has done for a long time because of his opinions. But it was the books of David Icke that helped me, Ashley. And everyone was telling me, "Don't listen to this guy." And I was like, well, he says this and he says that, and it's like, right, okay, that's fine. I care about that. I want to hear what he's got to say here. I like what he's just said there. So, and from that. And you're not going to agree with everyone 100%. And I used to be bad for this, that if I was listening to someone, then they said something that I didn't like, I didn't agree with, I'm not listening to you and move on. You can't do that either, because you're doing yourself out of information and thus an education. So if I'd done that with David Icke stuff, I would be sitting here right now, I'd probably be dead. And I'd seen in his books that because I thought I was a failure because I used to fail. And I would fail at something, then move on to something else, fail at that, move on to something else. It doesn't work. And he'd said you need to sort of remember who you are and remember that you're part of your infinite awareness that's just having this experience, and that through your thoughts and your attraction and your magnetism that you can actually attract whatever life it is you want. And that if you are using drugs, then you're doing exactly what they want you to do. And that was it. That snapped something in me. Actually, it's changing the information that's playing. It's like, I've used this analogy a couple of times now. If there's a DVD playing on that screen there and I don't like it, if I was to start screaming at the screen, it wouldn't change the DVD, because that's not where it's playing. You actually need to go inside the DVD player and remove the disc and change the disc. It's the same in here. You need to go inside yourself and change the information that's playing in your mind, because we're all computers, we're all biological computers, and you can program it or someone else can do it for you. The choice is absolutely yours, and it was his information that taught me that stuff.
That's amazing, really. I like that analogy. I do. It's a good way of thinking about it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add for our listeners that might be of any value? Is there anything that you'd really want to stress?
Yes, please. I would just say to anyone that's watching this, or that's maybe going through a nightmare, or they're maybe not having a great time, or they're maybe on universal credit and they're being marginalised or whatever, and if you're thinking that I'm worthless, I was dealt a bad hand, I'm never going to get out this, I wasn't intelligent at school, I couldn't do this, I failed at that. Well, guess what? I used to think like that as well, and just because you think like that and you fail, it doesn't mean to say that you're a failure. And I don't care what it is that you want or what it is you believe you can do. If you really want it, you can have it. And if you've got people around you that's ridiculing you for that or laughing, first and foremost, good, because it means your dreams are big enough if they're laughing at them. If they're not, they're not big enough. But if they are laughing at you and they're telling you that you can't do it, you need to drop them. I don't care how long I don't care how long you've known them. I don't care how close you think you are. If you wish to get to the next level and you've got people around you that's doing that, they're not going to help you. You're not going to get anywhere. You will remain in the cycle that you are in, because you're only as good as the people around you, Ashley. And if you've got no good people around you, then you must be a pioneer and be a good person on your own. That's what I've done, and it completely changes your life. And it doesn't just change your life; it changes your family's life, because they look and they think, well, actually, at first they thought it was rubbish, and then they look at it, well, wait a minute here, this is, and they take it on, and it's now changed their lives. And that is such an amazing thing. And I don't care what your name is, I don't care what you've done, I don't care what mistakes you have made, or whether you were clever at school. You can sit down with a blank sheet of paper, and you can start again, and you can learn we've got the internet now. Yeah. You can learn. There's loads of free courses online. They're everywhere. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I know there's something. I know there's something inside of it you've thought, I'd like to try that, or I'd like to know that, or I'd like to learn how to do that. There's always something, but so many people don't say it because they're worried what their family think or what their friends think, and they don't want to be laughed at. And I was no different. But again, if you want to have a better life, or you want to have a different life, then you must get out of that, because if you always do what you've always done, Ashley, you'll always get what you've always got.
That's really good. I like that. I really do like that. Yeah,
and that's the truth.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
well, that's kind of all the questions that we've had, really. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, Alan.
You too, Ashley. I really, honestly, I was so thankful when you asked me to come on a mental health podcast, because it's mental health it's people use it to shun responsibility, and that doesn't mean that there's no mental health problems. I'm not saying that. It's just that people use it to their advantage, and I've said this to people on the lines that, like young guys that used to say to me, "Oh, I need to get on this LCWRA," and it's like, well, are you actually sick? Do you need that? Well, no, but I don't want to go to the job centre. I said, look, I understand you don't want to go to the job centre. I understand it. Don't like it either. No, I mean, no one does. But if you're getting it into your head that you're sick and you're actually not, then you are
doing yourself a disservice.
Honestly, you've done yourself such a disservice and selling yourself short. I can't even begin to describe the words. Because what you think about yourself and life and whatever is what creates this world around you. Again, it's the old TV and DVD player analogy, where your thoughts that are playing create it. So if they're all negative, that you're a failure and you can't do this and you can't do that, and I'm what they said about me, and that time I've done that to my family, I feel really bad. I'm not saying we need to get rid of the guilt. All that has to go, because that's creating a negative reality around you. And I know a lot of people say, well, positive thoughts, but it's real, Ashley. This stuff is real, and I said this to my brother David, like it. I am living proof that you create your own reality. When you looked at where I was compared to where I look now, and the difference is, the changing of the thoughts was the difference. That was the difference. You have to believe it yourself. There's no point getting into something and not believing you're going to do it, because you won't do it. You just won't do it, because if you've got self-doubt,
you've got to back
it's self-doubt, yeah. As soon as you've got self-doubt in here or there or wherever, you've already lost. It's done. It's over, because you're doubting yourself. How can you progress to the next level if you yourself are doubting it? And this is what I mean. You might come out with a dream where you'll say, I'd love to be an actor like Denzel Washington or something like that. And people will laugh out loud. But that doesn't matter if 1 million people laugh in your face at that. It doesn't matter if they don't believe it. That doesn't dictate your reality. It matters if you believe it. So you don't need everyone else to believe that. Only you do. And the minute you do believe it, and it's not easy, Ashley, it is not easy. We have to keep going, and this is another analogy that I can give you. And life's brilliant for analogies. That's why the Bible's an allegorical document, because it's all about analogies to teach you about things in your life. And this is one of the best ones. I mentioned there that I used to fail at something, then I would move on to something else. And then I would fail at that and think, well, that's not for me, I'll move on to something else. That doesn't work, because you need to, if you genuinely want to do something, you need to keep going and keep going and keep going. Now, if you take an axe and you go and start chopping a tree down, if you hit that tree at 10,000 different places, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. It's going to have 10,000 marks all over it. However, if you hit that tree 10,000 times in the same place, what happens? It falls.
Yeah.
Because you're hitting it in the same place. You're keeping trying, and you're boom, boom, you're focused on this. This is it. This is for me, and I'm going to do this. Boom, 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 boom. 10,000 times in the same place, and the tree will collapse. 10,000 times all over the bit, or different places. You're wasting your time, and you will eventually fail and move on. So life is about analogies. Now, I don't believe in the Bible or anything like that. I don't believe in the context of it. But that doesn't mean to say you can't learn from it, because of these allegorical stories that are in there that can help you through stages in your life. That's what it's for. It's just that in the context that it's taught, it's used to manipulate people and skew their mind and manipulate them into a position of fear, the fear of God. And this is where I differ from Jordan Peterson when he says to understand or to engage in true enlightenment, I can't remember the terminology he used, then you need to first fear God. But the thing about it is, we are God. Consciousness is God. The force that moves all things, the wind that blows the trees, the force that moves us, that is consciousness. And we have got a little tiny bit of that in each of us. And the heart chakra, that consciousness does not do fear, Ashley. It only does love, because they're two completely different frequencies that will not connect. Radio 1 will not connect to Radio 2. It will not happen. They'll share the same space, but they'll never ever connect because they're on completely different frequencies. It's the same with love and fear. So if you're opening up to fear first, then you're not truly engaging with your consciousness, in my opinion, because you're opening up to fear, which is their channel, not ours. So I would suggest it's all on you, and that can be overwhelming because it's a big responsibility. But it's all on us. Every last bit of it. This world, whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. We are creating it. They need us to create this. And when we take our power back and realise how powerful we are, we can paint whatever kind of picture we want. We don't need them, but they need us.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Amazing, yeah. Thank you very much, Alan. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you again, Ashley, for having me on.